Hey everybody, it's Christina of CraftyPaws. I wanted to come on and share with you guys 4 cards that I made. This is a DT project for Diamond dies, and to create these cards using a bouquet technique, I used these 3 circles dies from the Diamond dies circle nesting die set, and these 3 hearts from the hearts nesting die set. And with those dies, I created little stencils that I then used to create this bokeh effect. There's lots of YouTube videos sharing this technique, but basically bokeh is a Japanese word that means blurry. And it's that look that you see sometimes in photography where it looks like city lights all blurred out in the background, like lots of little circles. And then in the foreground, it has something in sharp focus so that the background really highlights the focal point of the image. I thought I would share with you guys my little twist on it, which is to create a bokeh effect with hearts. And then I also use some modeling paste to add some texture to some of them. I also added some sequins and some bling pieces to add a little extra sparkle, as well as some Wink of Stella to add a little shimmer. And I'm going to attach here the video showing you the whole process of how I created these looks. I hope you enjoy it. And if you're making a purchase at Diamond Dies, please consider using the code Thanks Christina for 10% off your entire purchase and free shipping if your order is $35 or more. Thanks for watching, everybody. So I start with some Strathmore watercolor paper and I tape it down using some Tim Holtz washi tape that is very low tack. I'm also using some Tim Holtz Distress inks, and I will list the colors that I used in my blog post, which I will link to in the description box below. But the different cards that I created were using, I think, 4 or 5 different Distress inks. I load up the watercolor paper with water, just brushing it on very heavily. I start off by adding some of the lightest color first with a very wet brush. Then moving on to the middle tone, and then lastly I'll add the darkest because I wanted more pinks in this card. You can make it darker or lighter just adding more ink or more water. Now I'm going to cut off the edges of my watercolor paper at the end, but if you're not, you can mop up the edges of any pooled ink. That's the stencil that I created. It was just some packaging that I punched holes through using the heart dies. And that's the white ink that I used. It's a Donna Salazar white ink called Jasmine. And it has really good coverage. But you do have to wait for it to dry before handling it too much or use a heat gun to set it. And in between doing some of these hearts, I also had to use my heat gun to dry it because I realized that the ink was sitting on the top of the paper and was getting lighter and lighter as I handled the paper more. Then I decided I was going to add some circles, some small ones, to even the heart bouquet cards. So I used a little scrap and punched some holes using just my old McGill hole punches. I just wanted to add more circles, more bouquet effect, if you will. And then I decided I was going to have some middle-sized circles with just using the finger dauber. Here I'm putting on the sentiment, and this one is from Stamps of Life, Bubblegum for Me, and it says, "Have a bubblicious day." The other stamp that I use on some of the other cards is Celebrate from the TPC Studio Cupcake set. Here you'll see I use the Liquitex modeling paste. And I don't know where my little spatula or whatever is, and so I just use an old gift card to spread out the modeling paste. And that works just as well. And I try to just use a tiny bit of the modeling paste because I don't want it to be really thick. I want a really thin coat. You could even add some glitter. I'm not a fan of glitter, but you could while the modeling paste is still wet, and that would make those circles even more sparkly. Here I decided to color in some of the circles that had faded out a little bit with my Wink of Stella, and that added a really nice shimmer actually. And the wetness from the Wink of Stella kind of reactivated the inks and brought them out a little bit darker. They had kind of faded into the watercolor paper. And then I decided I was going to add some sequins or bling pieces with some glossy accents and some sequins. I try to put things like that in odd numbers on a card because I've been told, or I've heard, that when you put things in even numbers, people who look at it start counting, whereas if you leave things in odd numbers, they don't, and they just kind of accept the whole piece. I don't know if that's true or not, but I thought it was an interesting tidbit. And that's the whole process. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and thanks for watching. Bye!